Hi, in today's video I'm going to take a look at the Playerctl command and how we can use it to create desktop notifications for sites like YouTube. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, open up a terminal next to the browser, and I'm going to run the Playerctl command with the -l option, and you'll see that it says no players were found, and that's because we haven't actually started playing a video yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this video, and what I'm going to do is run the Playerctl command with the -l option again, and you'll see it lists Firefox instance 9. I can now run the Playerctl command with the metadata option, and what this is going to do, I'll just switch this back to full screen for a second, is print out the metadata of that video. And what you'll see is a couple of interesting things. We've got the title, we got the artist, which is actually the YouTube channel, but the interesting thing here is we've got something called the Empress Art URL, and this is a file. This is a PNG file. Now, obviously, this isn't a correct link for Linux. This file, this section here. So this would be the correct link here. So if I copy that and run sxhkd, which is an image viewing program with that URL, you can see we've actually got a thumbnail, which is the thumbnail for this video. So what we can do is, using the Playerctl command with the metadata option, is we can actually get metadata about the currently playing video, including the thumbnail. So that got me thinking, could we use that to create something to show, what's playing? So what I'm going to do next is, if I just run file and paste in that link, what we'll see here is that it's a 336 by 188 sized image. So what I then got thinking was, what programs could we use to display the title and the image? We can't really do it in the terminal, so I thought about using something like Conky. But the problem is with Conky is it's going to be displayed on the desktop, and I always have a window open. Then I got thinking, what about using desktop notifications? So if I come across and have a look at the NotifySend program, this is an application on Linux which is used to create desktop notifications in conjunction with a program called Dunst, which is like a program that you can use to basically style the notifications and stuff. So if we have a look at the NotifySend program, basically it doesn't, I don't think it allows you to put an actual HTML, but it has this icon option here. Specifies an icon file name or stock image to stock icon to display. So what I got thinking about was, what if we could use NotifySend to take that image URL and create a desktop notification? So that's what I did. I created a script that basically grabs the title, the player that's running, the player's state, and the image URL. And then what I did was I created keyboard shortcuts using the sxhkd keyboard daemon. So now, if I press a keyboard shortcut, you'll see I get this lovely desktop notification with the image, title, the channel, which is the artist, the player, and you can see there it was paused. So if I now press play or pause on my keyboard, what I'll get is a desktop notification
on Linux or
when I play and pause this, and I can dismiss these by pressing Control and Space to dismiss them. So what I've done is I created a hotkey that I can press that will basically just show the desktop notification like this, which I can then dismiss. And also I've bound it to the play and pause keys. So
Unix like operating systems in general, yeah.
Paused. Now what I've also done is ratchet this up another step and set it so that when we're using a playlist, it will show the desktop notification when we advance to the next or previous item in the playlist. So what I'll do now is open a playlist here from DT's channel and show you that working. So let's have a look. Let's go to the Xmonad playlist. And what I'm going to do is open the video. Now what happens is Firefox isn't creating the desktop notification. So when we open the video, it's not going to open a desktop notification. So as you can see here, I open the video, there's no desktop notification because we're using the hotkeys to query the video and then create the desktop notification. It's not actually Firefox that's showing the desktop notification. So basically when you play a video, it's not going to show anything. I can press the keyboard hotkey to show the notification. And also when I play and pause, as I said. But what I want to do now is go through this playlist. So what I've done is in the sxhkd configuration, there are actually media hotkeys you can use for previous and next item in a playlist. But using the function keys, you don't actually seem to be able to run another command after that. So what I've done is I've found Alt, Super, Control, and H and L to previous or next item in the playlist. So I'm going to go to the next item in the playlist. And as you can see here,
a lot of questions.
It automatically shows the desktop notification when I go to the next item in the playlist. You can see the title corresponds to the title down here, so I can just keep going through.
So I've done several videos about,
and it's basically going to show the all the
so it's a problem.
Desktop notifications for every time we go through.
Live.
So that's basically how we've set it up, how it works, how it looks. So what I'll do now is actually go through how you configure this and set this up. So what I'll also do is I'm just going to see if I can come across to a music video, and then I'll pause it because the reason what I want to do is I don't want to play any of these. I just want to come through and show you. So for instance, this track here, you can see it's got an exceptionally long title. A lot of the videos here you'll see have this format of the artist dash the song name and then like official music video at the end. So one thing I was looking into was how you can actually truncate these titles. So if I just open this and just pause it straight away before it actually plays anything. So basically all I want to do is hit the desktop notification and show you that it actually comes up as a much larger one because it's not truncating the text. And the issue, I did look into a way of, removing anything with, brackets at the end of the URL, but that basically would affect a lot of other videos and, chop up the file name. But that's just one thing I wanted to show you here is the, it's not going to cut off the URL. So that's just one issue. So what I'm going to do here is just come out of that. And what I'll do is come across to the setup. So first of all, what we're doing is using Playerctl. So this is Playerctl that we're actually using to query the video player playing and get the metadata. And these are some of the options that you've got. So you can actually run this on the command line with like Playerctl, play, pause. and all these options that I basically showed you in a previous video. But what you can also do is actually bind those to keyboard shortcuts using the sxhkd keyboard daemon. And so these are the commands, and what we've got down here is actually some examples, and this is the section I wanted to come across to, printing the properties and metadata. So what you can actually do is run Playerctl metadata with the format option, and then specify certain variables that you want to pull out. So as I said, you can pull out like the artist, the album, the title. You've got stuff down here like the total length, at position, the artist, which you could lowercase, status, time remaining, volume. So there are lots of these options you can use, but the issue is different browsers and different video players and different websites have to enable this specification for this to work. And unfortunately, a lot of these examples don't actually work in the browser. They won't display the position or the length of the video. So, as I said, here are the functions and the variables we can use, like player name, position, status, album, artist, and title. Basically, what I've done is I've found out that a lot of these don't work in the browser or in the video player. So album isn't going to show anything when you're playing in YouTube, or artist will actually show the YouTube channel name, not the artist of the song. So the only ones that I've actually got, just this up. So here what we've got is we've got the title, we've got the image, we've got the artist, the player, and the status of the player. So those are the only ones that actually work in Firefox. And what I'm going to do is come across to Chromium and show you that Chromium doesn't actually provide the same metadata that Firefox does. So what I'm going to do is come across to YouTube, and here we go. What I'm going to do now is open the terminal, and I may need to quit Firefox Playerctl list. As you can see, what happens with Playerctl is that it will list the players that have actually played a video, and then it recognizes it, and the players will be organized alphabetically. So you can see here, if I run play or pause, because Chromium is alphabetically ahead of Firefox, it's going to control Chromium. And there are ways to, say, ignore Chromium or specify a particular browser to control. But what I want to do now is basically run the Playerctl command with the metadata. And what you'll see here in Chromium is that we only get the artist and the title. Don't get anything else. We don't get the Empress art URL for the image. So with Chromium, we don't have the same metadata exposed by the browser that we do in Firefox. And that's because the Empress support in Chromium is actually broken. It's an issue going back several years that basically it doesn't follow the full specification and expose all of the metadata. So that's why what I'm going to do now is show you how the script works when there's no icon to display. So if I press the keyboard shortcut here, what you'll see is that I have this fallback image which I've used a smiley face, and we've got the title, the artist, the player, and the status. So as I was saying, the only information that we can actually get in the browsers is the title. We get the image in Firefox, but not in Chromium. And we can get the player's name and the status of the player. the position option doesn't work, so we can't actually query the video and get the duration of the video or the position, anything else like that. So that's all we can get from the metadata that's exposed by these browsers. So again, what I'm going to do now is come through and show you the script and how we're pulling all this out and creating a fallback image. So what I'll do is come across to this, and what I need to do is come across to the Archwiki and the dunst page, Archwiki dunst. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is cobbling several programs together to create this effect. So the first one, the one we needed to install and set up was the Playerctl program, and I showed you how to set that up in a previous video. So that's the first thing we need to do. The next thing we're going to need is the notification server, which is going to be dunst. You should have NotifySend installed by default on your Linux distribution. But the other application we're going to be using is dunst, and the other one we're going to be using is sxhkd, which is a simple hotkey daemon by the developer of BSPWM. So what we're going to do is set these up. I showed you how to set sxhkd up in a previous video, and what I'm going to do now is actually show you the script, the dunst setup, and the hotkey setup. So first of all, what I'll do is come across to Chromium. Now playing. Let's open this up. Okay, let me just zoom that out one so it's not too big. So first of all, what we're doing is we're getting the metadata from the active player, and we're creating a variable called metadata, and that's going to contain the output of this command. So we're running Playerctl metadata format, and then what we're doing is inside of these double curly braces, we're pulling out these different variables. And these variables are separated by the hash symbol, and I'll explain why in a second. So we've got the title, we've got the artist, the player name, the status, and the Empress art URL. Okay, and these are all separated by the hash symbol, and the reason for that is because I'm using the hash symbol as a delimiter between the columns. So the reason why we need to do that is because we can't use a space as a delimiter because the title is going to contain a space. Yeah, so that wouldn't work. So what we're trying to do is find a symbol that's not going to be used in the URL, the title. So we're creating a variable called title. Then we're echoing the metadata from up here. So we're echoing the results of the metadata we've collected from the video into cut. And we're specifying the delimiter as the hash symbol, which I mentioned. And then we're pulling out the first field, which is going to be the title. And what we're doing is we're setting the output delimiter to a new line. And what that's going to do is that's going to replace the hash symbol with a new line. So what we can then do is we can then do the same thing and pull out the artist, which is the second field. And what we're doing here is we're creating a variable called artist fallback, which we're setting to unknown. And the reason for that is in some programs it's not going to show the artist. So rather than it being blank, we just set a fallback to be artist unknown. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the player name and capitalize it with awk. So the player name is going to be like Firefox or Chromium, and by default it's all lowercase. And for visual effects, I basically want to capitalize the first letter. So what I'm doing is I'm echoing the metadata in, I'm pulling out the third field, which is the player name, and then I'm piping it into awk, and I found this little neat little command on Stack Overflow, and that basically is going to capitalize the first letter, and so we'll have capital F for Firefox, just to make it look nicer. Now the next thing that we're doing is we're pulling out the status. So again, we're echoing the metadata, we're pulling out the fourth field, which is the status. And then what we're doing is we're creating a variable called body. And what that's going to do is that's going to contain all of the fields that we've pulled out. So in the desktop notification, you've got several bits. You've got the title, which is the thing at the top. You've got the art URL, which is the icon. And then you've got everything else, and that's basically the body. So what we're doing is we're creating this body variable, and that's going to say like artist. And what we've got here is artist, and then it's like artist fallback. And basically what that does is if the artist is empty, it's going to fall, the variable artist is empty, it's going to fall back to this artist underscore fallback variable, which is basically going to set it to unknown. So rather than it being blank, it will set it to unknown. Then we've got the player, and then we've got the status. And then after that, what we've got is we've got the dunst icon using the Empress art URL. So again, we're echoing the metadata, and then we're pulling out the fifth field, and then we're piping it into sed. And what we're doing is we're removing the file // from the URL because otherwise it wouldn't work. Now after that, what we're doing is we're creating a variable called icon fallback, and what I've done is I've set that to the smiley face icon that is in the user share adwaita 48x48 legacy directory. And that's a set of icons that you should have installed on most Linux distributions. Now, after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run NotifySend with the -i option to specify the icon. And that's going to be equal to icon, which is, where's the icon? Oh, just there. That's going to be equal to the icon. But if the icon variable is empty, if there's no icon, like in Chromium, as I showed you, what it's going to do is it's going to use this icon fallback, so it will then use the smiley face as an icon. We then specify the title and the body. So that's how we construct the now playing script. So if I come across here, and what I'll do is I'll just run it in the command line. So if I run the now playing script, what you'll see is that basically is what creates the desktop notification. So you could just run, you know, it's not really practical just run now playing in the terminal. So that's why the next step up is to actually then bind that to some keyboard hotkeys.
Around 2008.
Let me just come out of that. Actually, fucking what I'll do is put this video full screen just because I want to show you what the desktop notifications look like full screen as well. So just put this full screen and then do the desktop notification. Although it's just while it's paused, but just so you can see how the desktop notification looks above the video. Excuse me, the video. So you can see it stands out because it's got, nice board around it. So what I'll do now is come across to the sxhkd setup. So that's the script. Then we've got sxhkd, the keyboard the daemon thing. And then what we need to take a look at is the dunst configuration file, because there are certain things you need to enable, and there's a bug that I'm going to show you how to fix with a missing file. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across to config sxhkd. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip down to the new section of code. So first of all, what I wanted to mention was that there are keyboard media keys. You know, play, pause, next item in previous item in playlist, and you can set it up so that basically when you press those keyboard shortcuts, it will play and pause the YouTube video or whatever's playing in whatever video player. But what I found is you can't execute another command after running this with these function keys. So I'll show you what I mean. What I did in a previous video was show you how to set up fast forward and rewind. And what we've got here is play, pause, toggle, next and previous items in the playlist. And what you'll see here is we've run the play, pause toggle with Alt, Super and Space. And that then runs Playerctl play, pause. And after that, if that command has succeeded, it's going to run the now playing script. And actually appending this ampersand now playing to the function keys doesn't work, but it does work if you use regular keys. So that's one thing to watch out for. So what this basically does is this will trigger a notification. When I press play or pause, it's going to bring up the desktop notification. You know, it's going to say play or paused. And then what we've got down here is next and previous. So this is the next and previous items in the playlist. And so this is bound to Alt, Super, Control and L. Of course, you can choose your own keyboard shortcuts. And basically what this does is it runs Playerctl next. And it sleeps for a second. The reason for that is because it basically needs to wait for the page to load, and then what we do is we then run the desktop notification, so it will show, you know, the current page and the that's playing. It's going to show the icon, text, all that, and then we've got previous, and some of these options here. Like we can set, we can go to the start of the video, but this Playerctl position option doesn't work in browsers. It will work with MPV, but it doesn't work in the browsers. And then finally, what I've done is create a keyboard shortcut, which is Alt, Super, and Z. And when I press that, that's going to basically show the desktop notification. So I can press play or pause, and that's going to play and pause and also show the notification. But if I just want to show the notification, I can press this keyboard shortcut. So that's the sxhkd setup. Now what I want to do is come across to the dunst setup, because there is actually a bug with the missing file. So if we come across down here, this is the issue, the icon sets. So what I'm going to do is, if I just come across to the terminal here, let me just open that up a bit bigger. ls user share docs dunst, and then we've got dunst. Okay, so that's the file. We're going to copy this to the desktop. So this is the default configuration file for dunst, which is user share doc dunst dunstrc.gc. So we're going to copy that to the desktop, and we can unzip it, gzip, I think it is -d dunst.gz. Okay, so that's the default configuration file, and the location in your home directory would be that you'd keep this would be in config dunst and dunstrc. So that's where the default configuration file is, but there's a bug with missing missing icon sets. So if I just come down here, there's a section on icon paths. Okay, so what I'd advise you to do is you have to edit your dunstrc, and basically it looks for particular files in these locations that are separated by the colon. So what you do is you copy this section in here into your dunstrc, but there's, even after you do that, there's one extra thing that you need to do. There's one other missing file. So what I'm going to do is just come across to this path. Hang on. And show you the file that's actually missing that you need to find. Okay, so it's dialogue. Where's the dialogue? I think it's dialogue error. One of these dialogue ones. So what happens is basically dunst looks for all these icons in all these different locations, and the one file that it's missing is this dialogue. I'm pretty sure it's this dialogue error.png file. So basically what happens is if you don't have that file in your icon path, dunst will constantly throw an error when there's a notification in the terminal. It will show something like GTK icon path not found. I can't remember what it is, but the fix is to append this extra path. So user share icons high contrast 16:16 status, the end of this icon path in your dunst configuration file. Once you've done that, it will find the missing icon set, and it won't throw an error constantly in the terminal. So what I'm going to do now is actually go through the setup of this, and let me just make this a bit bigger so it's easier to go through. So I'll go through the stuff that actually needs to be changed. So the first thing here is the geometry. Basically what this controls is the size of the notification and the position on the screen. So this first section here, 0 by 0, I've changed by default. It's already set, but the reason we're changing it to 0 by 0 is because that will allow the notification to basically fit all its content on one line. It won't, if we set a specific height and width, what will happen is the text will go over onto new lines, and it will mess up the look of the notification with the icon. Basically, it won't be the same size as the art URL icon. So that's the first step, is set this to 0 by 0 so that the notification can grow to accommodate the text. And then what we've got is 15 by 40. And basically what that is that's the position on the screen. So it's going to be indented by 15 from the right and 40 from the top. So that's the basically setting the geometry and the position. The other things that you need to change. So what I've done here is change the frame width. The frame width is basically the border around the notification. So I've set that to 2. I think by default it's 3. And then what I've done here is set the frame color to 939393, which is sort of like an off grey. And then we've got the separator color. So let me just come across and open this. So if I press the desktop notification, what I need to do is,
I think most desktop Linux users probably,
and you can see here this line between these two notifications is the same color as the border. So that's what that's referring to. And I said it's indented 15 from the right and 40 from the top. And what I'll do is I'm just going to come across to here so you can see how it looks. That's how it looks, you know, against the terminal and against Emacs. So you can see it's nicely placed. Let me just come out of this. Okay, so that's what that option is. Now what we've got here is the text. This is where you set your font, and I'm using Inconsolator. Basically, in all my, you know, this is that text and the terminal. So I've basically used that. The other thing I've changed. Okay, alignment of text messages. We have that set to left. The important thing is the images, the icons down here. Okay, so the icons, what you need to do is you need to make sure the icon position isn't set to off, because otherwise you're not going to get any icons. So I've got this set to left because I think it looks better that way, and it basically you know, just you're going to see the icon, then read the text on the right. Now the next important thing is the max icon size, and what I've got is the icon size set to 150. So that's going to be like the width of that, and you can see that we've got 4 lines of text here, and it lines up perfectly. So it actually takes some experimentation to get the everything to line up properly. So as I said, if I had 3 items here, if I didn't have like the artist and I had just had that, and that, it wouldn't align to the top. The title would actually be sort of more middle aligned. It would actually sit down here. It would sort of center it, and there isn't a way to set the text to go to the top. So that's why we kind of need to calculate the width and the amount of items we're going to have in the notification. So we have a max icon size of 150, and I found that if you set the max icon size to 100, you can have 3 lines of text. Okay, so that's the important thing, is the max icon size. And basically you could the image from YouTube was it 366 by 188, but so you could set it higher. You could set it to, like, you know, 300, double that. But then what would happen is if you set this much bigger, these 4 lines of text wouldn't be aligned at the top. They'd be sort of aligned in the middle, and it wouldn't look as good. So the next thing we need to cover again is the path to the default icons, which I showed you, which we copied from the Archwiki. And the important one down here that we appended to the path from the Archwiki is user share icons, high contrast 16 by 16 status. And basically that was the location for the missing icon file. So the history, haven't changed anything there. You probably want to change your browser here, user bin Firefox, whatever, and scroll down here, legacy, and the section down here is where I've actually set all the colors. Okay, so we've got the urgency low, normal, and critical. And so what I've done is I've set the same, I think I've got a different color for critical, but I haven't tried any critical notifications. But basically the color scheme that I'm using here, this is the background, the foreground color, and then the frame. So the background, this off black, is 232323. The foreground text is E6, 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 and the frame color is 1E, 1E, 1E. So I think that gives a nice dark theme pop up with you know, a bit of contrast. So that's the color scheme, where you can set the color scheme for the notifications. You've also got this other stuff down here you can sort of look into. I think you can create specific sort of notifications for different things, but I haven't looked into that. So that's the dunst setup. So basically what we had was we got Playerctl, we've got dunst, and we've got sxhkd. And once we combine all those together, we can get desktop notifications. So let's just click this video and pause it.
All right.
And remember, until you actually open and play the video,
let's use this
in Firefox, Playerctl won't pick up the player. So just opening the browser without opening a video, it won't recognize a player until you've actually played a video. If I press the keyboard shortcut here, you'll see that I get the image, the title. You can see the artist here is Sxhkd, so that's the channel name. And then I get the player and the status. So you can see here Firefox is capitalized using that awk command. And if I
little piece of
play, you'll see it says playing, paused, and you can dismiss the notifications using Control Space to do them one at a time, or you can do Control Shift Space to dismiss all notifications. So what I'll do is I'll come across to let's come across to MPV, and let me just open a another terminal. And what I'll do is I'll show you a video playing in MPV and the metadata that you can get from that. And in a previous video, I showed you there's a plugin for MPV that you need to install to enable Empress debus support. And once you've done that, you can control MPV using keyboard shortcuts. So what I'll do is I'll play a video to DFS. Okay, so what I'll do is just move this across here, and now if I run Playerctl -l, what I need to do is actually close Firefox up, because otherwise it's not going to control MPV. So Playerctl -l, we can see MPV here. Now if I run Playerctl metadata, and let me just close that and bring this full screen. Hang on. Okay. So this is the metadata that we get from something playing in MPV. We get the URL, and that's basically the link to the video. That's the full path to the video. We get the title. We don't get artist or album. We get this Empress length, and you can see here this isn't in hours, minutes, seconds. You actually have to. There's another command you can run that will actually display it as in hours, minutes, and seconds. But you don't get. There are other examples of code to actually show the current position or the time remaining, but they don't seem to work. So the stuff that MPV is going to display, we're not going to get the thumbnail, because obviously there's no thumbnail, it's just a file. Whereas something on YouTube is going to have a thumbnail. So that's why, that's the way it is, basically. So what I'll do is I'll just open that again and run the now playing script. So what I'll do is I'll press the keyboard hotkey. And what you'll see here is we get the title, the artist is unknown, MPV is paused, and we get the fallback icon. So because we can't get an icon, that's why we get the smiley face. The reason why I used that is because, as I said, it's part of the Adwaita legacy icon set that should be installed on most Linux distributions. So basically it means that if you're playing something in like MPV or Chromium, which doesn't support the art URL image link, you'll still get an icon, and of course you can change this icon to whatever you want. So as I said, we don't have the artist, so that's why we set it to unknown. We've got the player MPV and we've got the status. So that's how MPV looks. And let me just come back across, and what I'll do is I'll bring up Firefox and just go to a note. While this loads up. Okay, so what notes on was it? Playerctl, LLLM, Playerctl, and down the bottom is the sxhkd. Okay. So these are some notes on setting up sxhkd, how to install it, configure it, and this was the previous configuration without the now playing script, and this is the Playerctl setup and how to get it working with Firefox and FireJail, and how to set up ZSH completions. And if I come into here, here's the now playing script I showed you, where we grab the metadata and pull all the stuff out and create the desktop notification. And where's the, big, and what I'll do is I'll link to configuration for the sxhkd setup with the now playing script, so that whenever we play or pause, go to the next item in the playlist, or press the now playing key shortcut, we'll get the desktop notifications. So those are all the bits you need to set up to get this working. And as I said, Firefox is the best browser to use because the the Empress support in Chromium is broken, and it doesn't expose all the metadata. And the other thing that that reminds me, I wanted to show you is how does this work when you're playing a video in private mode. So if I open up a private window and come across to YouTube, what I want to show you is the difference between the metadata that's exposed in a regular Firefox window as opposed to a private window. So let's open up this video here, and what I'll do is I'll run the desktop notification. I was going to show you on the command line, but same deal. If I do that here, you see Firefox is playing media, artist unknown, Firefox, and paused, and we get the fallback icon. So because it's in private mode, it's not exposing the same amount of data, so we just get Firefox is playing media and we don't get an icon. But if I open this same video in a regular Firefox window and run the notification, and again we then get this here, and you can see this is a long URL, so that's why we're getting this big long thing here. And I said I did look into ways to truncate the text. There are things you can do with like the cut command. You can use was it like cut something like -s or -c and then like 1 to -80 to specify 80 characters. So it would be possible to, you know, truncate this text so that it's not so long. You know, so we don't get such a long thing. But I mean, it's not too bad. It's not going right way long there. But that's basically the difference between opening a video in a normal window as opposed to a private thing. So let's see if something like Vimeo works. So, right, okay. Search. Let's just search for Linux. See if anything comes up. So again, the way this it really depends on the website as to how this works. So, okay, it is working in Vimeo. So we've got a nice pop up there. It's looking good. So it's working in Vimeo. What about something like Daily Motion? Eventually come on today. Yeah. Okay. Stick it around the video, get it to play.
On signing for City. We're all delighted that you're here. How are you feeling now that everything's sorted and done and dusted?
The buffer or something before it starts playing. Shit video. Yep, that's working there. You can see. So that's working on YouTube, Vimeo, and Daily Motion. Can't think of any other sort of, you know, sites off the top of my head. See if it will play a video. If I can play and briefly stop a video before it actually starts playing. Show me something with a video. Okay. What I want to do is I'm just going to pause this. I'm not going to play it. I want it to load up. Actually test to see if the notification works. I'll pause that. Yep, see that's working. And you can see here, obviously this is a different ratio of images. So I didn't specify a height. Maybe something I need to look into specifying the height. Then it would kind of crop the image a bit. But you can see what I was mentioning is that when the image is high, when the height of the image is bigger than the height of the text will actually be centered here and not at the top. And I don't think there's an option in the dunst configuration to actually get the text to be up at the top. So that's another thing. So I may need to look into a way to you know, specify a maximum height or something to take care of that issue. But that was just another website to check how this works. So it's working perfectly in YouTube, Vimeo, Dailymotion, works on the BBC sort of, bit you know, bit misaligned there. So that's something to look into. But this will work best in Firefox, as I said, as opposed to Chromium, and MPV isn't going to show you a you're not going to get an icon from that because there's no thumbnail. So back to YouTube, and what I'll do is just the recap on how it actually sort of works. So when you run the Playerctl command and you've just opened the browser, it's going to say no players. So you actually have to start playing a video for it to pick up the player that's active, and then once you've done that, you can control the video playing in the browser using your keyboard shortcuts. And again, you're not going to get a desktop notification using this if you just play the video, and that's because, as I said, Firefox isn't creating the desktop notification when it's doing something. We're actually creating a desktop notification by pressing keyboard shortcuts. So I can press Alt Super Z, and that's going to show my desktop notification. I can press Control Space to dismiss it. If I press play,
anytime I do a video
of pause, you can see it's going to give those Shift Control Space to dismiss all of them at once. And again, the playlist option only works when you're in an actual playlist. So here, you can see the URL, watch, and list. So you can only advance to the previous and next items in the playlist if you're in a playlist, obviously. So if I now press Alt Super Control and L, I'll go to the next page.
Welcome to another edition.
So you can see we get all these, and we can control space will dismiss the last one in the queue, as it were. Play, pause, and again we've got everything, the color schemes all set up here, and the other thing is this is not normally how Firefox displays YouTube. This is just my Firefox setup using CSS content to style YouTube, and then I sort of styled the pop-up to match this dark theme, but be slightly have a bit of contrast with the frame border there. So if I just come across and come across here and repositories, Firefox CSS. So this is how you set it all up, and I did a video on this as well. And Chrome user content, and this is the block of code to style YouTube. So that's how we can use Playerctl, NotifySend, dunst, and sxhkd to create desktop notifications that will pop up when we use play, pause, or just when we press the keyboard shortcut, so that we can have a nice notification with the image as well, and the player status, and the current player. So that's the setup, and I hope that's useful in some way, because we don't have sort of like desktop notifications from Firefox with YouTube, unless I'm missing something really obvious, a way to get that to work. But this is just your own way of doing it, and of styling it and pulling out the bits of information you want to display in a pop-up. So that's all for now.